All right, wisdom beyond the classroom. Accelerate your learning and chase down your dreams. We are honored and privileged to have Desiree Panlilio here. Desiree, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. And just a little bit of information on Desiree before we really get into her story and the wisdom that she's going to share with us. Desiree has a master's degree in human services counseling with a focus on life coaching. She has also started the website encouragingteens.com, and that really is all about several avenues to help teens really figure out, okay, where are you? Where do you want to go? And let me help you make that happen, right? Help this future actually happen. So that is awesome. In a nutshell, that what you do there with encouraging teens is like you're perfect for the show. So getting into it, how did all of this happen? You're with your degree, with starting the website, like give us the story about that.
So it's really kind of interesting. So we have two daughters. One's now, graduated college, one's in college, but we're also a military family. So we moved everywhere. And the one thing I noticed about my daughters and about their friends, because obviously the mostly military friends, is you move every year, every 2 years. So the kids don't get that friendship, that bond, haven't gone to school with the same kid since kindergarten. So they go and then they end up in a new school and they're kind of not very empowered. They're not very encouraged. They're
Hmm.
kind of sad. They're trying to make friends. So I started reading every book I could get my hands on how to encourage my teens, how to, empower them, how to make them be the best that they can. How do they advocate for themselves? How do they meet new people? It sounds crazy, but if you've never had to move every year and meet new people in a school cafeteria that's brand new to you, you don't understand the fears and stuff. So it was really about helping them. And it kind of started at my dining room table, and it was my kids and then my kids' friends. And then the neighbors said, hey, so and so told me we're working with kids, helping them, teenagers, communicate, to empowerment, to be able to advocate for themselves, to have goals, to have mission statements, helping them with time management, creating this great program for them. And I'm like, come on into my dining room table. So
Hmm.
really it came out of necessity of helping my own kids and helping military kids that were constantly moving, just to empower and encourage them, to make sure that they were finding their way, making sure that they had the study skills, the time management skills that they needed. That somehow when you move every year, you seem to always miss something when you're moving, whether
Hmm.
it's how to, do time management or how to create goals. You miss something in that education when you move. My kids, took the same history course twice
Hmm.
because what year they do it. So it was kind of creating this own pathway and making sure I covered all those things that they kind of miss, that weren't so academic but more life skills oriented for them.
That's amazing. And just as someone that actually moved a lot as a kid, also, I can totally relate because then you're going into a new place and it's like, I mean, making new friends is a big deal and fitting in is a big deal. And for me, I can just remember like I didn't want to necessarily like step on anybody's toes. I just kind of wanted to fit in. And it is a big deal to be able to do that and to do it successfully. So I commend you for doing that. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, it's definitely something kids need to learn. Communication skills are a learning tool. It's, you're always learning them. It's not something you're born with. It's something we're all working on. We're all working on how do we say something better? How do we do it better? So, as parents, that's something you're all working on. No parent ever is 100% amazing every day. We all struggle with saying the right thing. You know, I was talking to a parent and she just goes, I totally lost my blank today. She goes, and
Mm.
I don't even know why. It was a bad day at work. And then I got a call that my son just failed his chem test. And she goes, I'm calling, and I lost it. And I'm calling you because, wow, that was not the conversation I wanted to have. And I've had them too many times. And it was great to have that opportunity to go. Every parent's been there. Every parent feels that. But how do you stop that? How do you change your communication style? And it's really just reaching out and having someone say, hey, you're normal. You're a parent. And what
Mhm.
you did was perfectly fine. How do you backtrack? How do you go down a different path? That's the harder part.
Mhm. Right. And so you're really you're not only helping teens, but you're helping parents also. So you're helping with the communication of both. Is that correct?
Correct. So I work with teens mostly because teens are my biggest. I love teens. I could go on and on about how amazing teenagers are as they,
Mhm.
develop, psychologically and their metacognition and just how they've developed critical thinking skills and those aha moments. I do that. A lot of it is I work with helping parents learn to communicate with their teens. And it's not that they don't have the skills, but some of the skills they've learned at their job or something, they bring them home and try them on their teen. It doesn't work the same way. Teenagers, we all do. We all want to belong and we all want that unconditional love. And sometimes it's reminding parents about unconditional love and what that actually means. It doesn't mean, that you tie loving your child to a certain grade. And sometimes how we say it, that's how our teen envisions it. My parents love me if I get a B in English. Oh, I just got a D in English. My parents don't love me. And it's
Mm.
all about just learning that word, wording. How do we say that to our teens? And it's hard because we've all worked all day. We all have other stresses. And sometimes we just want to go in and, we say the wrong thing, or we just want to solve our teenagers' problem. We don't want to stop and help them learn those critical thinking skills. But, parents are teens' biggest cheerleaders, their biggest mentor, their biggest role model. And sometimes I think parents forget how much our teens are still watching us. I mean, our little kids
Mhm.
watch us and imitate us all the time. You can think about, I remember my daughter's putting lipstick on, or my daughter's putting my husband's uniform on. They're imitating us. But, as teenagers, they don't put my lipstick on or put, their dad's uniform on, but they're watching and they're learning. And how you interact with them is how they will interact with other people. And that's a powerful message for parents to really
Mm.
understand, is to stop and take that moment. And what do you want? What's the win in this situation that you want?
Absolutely. Our thoughts, our words, our actions, they're mimicking that, they're seeing all that, right? Even if they're not little and like actually, like you said, doing the lipstick or clothes. But our words, we really do have a lot of power over our children in what we say. And as you mentioned, if you have a long, you've had a tough day or you've had a long day at work and then you come home, I think that the biggest thing a lot of times is being able to respond and not react, because there's a big difference in that. And then um, taking back something that we've said, we wish we could take it back. Well, you can't necessarily take it back. So I think that that's very powerful that you're working with parents as well with their communication skills. There is a lot of, let's say, struggle, if you will, today with teenagers, or they just face a lot of different adversities. As amazing as our world is technologically, there's also a lot that goes into that and struggle. What are you seeing with that with teenagers? And, how are you helping them deal with just being teens today?
Being a teen today is so much more difficult. It's really 100% of being on all the time. You think about years ago, you could come home, you weren't on social media. Kids today are constantly on that. So the biggest thing I really like to work with teens is working with them to understand who they are. I think once they have that firm foundation of what their values are, what's important to them, and coming up with a personal mission statement really empowers them. I like them to be empowered. Each teen is unique. They each have their own pathway, and as their life coach and their parents, we're trying to help them navigate that pathway and realize that each of them is going to do incredible things. They're each going to change the world in their own unique way. And it's just encouraging that. So I think having a teen start to understand their values, articulate their values, and understand their own personal mission statement helps them be, grounded in who they are and confident in who they are. And my other thing that I love to do with teens are positive affirmations. I
Mhm.
think a teenager being able to say to themselves every morning, I am amazing, I am wonderful, I got this, is really powerful. It just gives them that sense of, I got it, I can do it. I actually used to tape little powerful quotes on our garage door. So every day my girls would see them as we got in the car to go to work and go to school, because I would drop them off. They got to see a positive quote, and whoever it was, it's whoever your famous, person is. If they love a sport, it's just empowering them to know that they are amazing, that they've got this. Because you don't know what happens when they go to school and they don't share something with you. If they're all of a sudden not sitting in that trendy group and now they're sitting off by themselves, them reminding themselves that I am amazing, I got this, is really powerful. And I think everyone needs that. I think as an adult, some days I need to remind myself that I'm amazing, that I got this.
Mm. That's awesome. I love that. That is very, very powerful because our self-image is everything, right? It determines our thoughts, it determines our words, it determines our actions, it determines really our future reality and the way we look at ourselves and if we have a belief in ourselves, I mean, it absolutely changes everything. So I love that that is something that you focus on. And I think that it's something that, like you said, even as adults, it's something we have to work on. We have to remind ourselves because you get into a situation and in the situation that you just gave as an example, if you're a teenager and you're in the cafeteria and perhaps you're not welcomed at a table or whatever the case may be, it's easy to us for us to sometimes forget in that moment, that self-image and the belief we have in ourselves. So I think it's really important that it's something that we like literally are saying every day, so it gets down into our subconscious.
Right. And it's kind of that self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You're like, I got this. It's okay that I'm not sitting at that table that those people don't.
Hmm.
I am amazing. And it's
Yeah.
okay to go sit at that other table. If you're not saying that, it's a whole different outcome. It's like, I'm lonely, I'm scared, I don't want to go to school, I don't want to be here, I don't want to try. But if you're really, if we work on values and we work on positive affirmations and just realizing what an incredible individual you are as a teenager, it's really empowering. And I love doing that with teens. I love them coming up with their values and being able to articulate how important certain things are and how that drives their behavior, and coming up with personal mission statements and goals to be where they want to be. So once they kind of have that, it's easier to kind of, those little hurdles or those little social struggles don't become something they obsess about. They're like, I got this, I'm amazing, I can move on.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I love that. For parents and for teens, um, what advice would you give? Besides, I think the bottom line of you saying like that there's a belief in themselves and having this self-image and really reinforcing that every single day. I think that's about as powerful as anything that you can absolutely do. And to make it a habit, right? To get up and actually like make that a habit. Um, I guess on top of that, what advice would you give parents of teens these days? With everything going on in our world, and then also for teenagers as well.
So, my biggest thing I tell parents is to listen with curiosity and to remember that trust and love and that unconditional love is built in the smallest of moments. So, an
Mm,
example is your teen comes home and you go, "How was your day?" And they go, "It was a day." And they go up to their room and you're like, "Oh, I know they had a bad day." You don't want to run up to their room and start trying to pull it out of them. Maybe a
mm,
couple hours later, you just go in their room and they're sitting there and they're not doing homework. You just go in and sit there, just your
mm,
presence. And if they just say, "Ryan told me I was an idiot today." Well, there you go. As a parent, you're like, okay, that's the issue. And you go, well, what would make him say something like that? And then you can dissuade them at like, well, you're not that. A lot of parents sometimes just want to solve the problem. Ryan
mm,
said I'm an idiot. Well, Ryan's an idiot, I don't know what he's talking about. Instead of saying,
mm,
what made Ryan say that? And then you can break down, well, he said that because I answered the math question in class wrong, because I didn't solve the problem right. Well, then you can focus on, what, we all make mistakes in life. It doesn't mean you're an idiot. It means you put yourself out there. It means you shared something. And you
mm,
can take that positive approach and build them back up. So I tell parents, trust and that unconditional love are the smallest of moments that you'll never realize you're doing. It's always, if you think about people that make an impact in your life, sometimes they never remember that they made that impact. So as a parent, remember to listen with curiosity. And it's those smallest moments that you sometimes don't even realize that you're making that impact.
I love that. That's really powerful and important. And the fact that you've jumped to, you don't need to solve all their problems. Be curious and kind of unfold what happened actually helps them recognize, what happened, what the problem was, and how to move forward from there. I think that's really, really powerful. And you're right. I think that there are moments that happen in our life we don't even remember if somebody played a part or somebody might not even remember that they played a part, but you're like, yeah, you said something, or you did something, you made me feel a certain way, and it really stuck with me. So yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah. And I think it's important for parents to do that, not try to solve their teenagers' problems and realize that, I always tell parents, never tell your kid that, the big thing teenagers, right? A breakup. Oh, there's a million, fish in the sea. You'll find a new boyfriend
Mm,
tomorrow. You'll find a new girlfriend. It's really letting them explore those feelings because,
mm,
we've all been there. We've had that similar feeling, but the experience is unique to your teen. And, if anything we've learned is COVID over the last year and a half has definitely been unique. No parent can ever say, oh, I've been through that.
mhm,
It's a unique experience how your teen's experiencing it. So stop and listen to how they're experiencing it. Because if you're not listening, you're not communicating, and then that relationship is going to struggle. So you want to just really listen and encourage their feelings and validate their feelings, that how they're feeling is okay.
yeah, absolutely. That's so important. We're emotional beings, right? We have to,
Yeah.
our feelings shouldn't just be swept under the rug, and they shouldn't just be like, oh, it's not a big deal, or you'll get over it, or there's more fish in the sea. That doesn't make anybody feel any better. And so I completely agree. Our feelings need to be validated, and we should feel the feelings that we feel. Um, and that will also help that connection with the parent and the child, right? Because if the parent just says, "Oh, there's more fish in the sea," in the child's mind, they're saying, "You don't get it, and you're not helping me." There's probably something else that then they're not going to share with the parent.
Right. It's really having those moments. It's really connecting with your teen and listening to them and listening to their feelings. If you think about it, when you have a little kid, if we have little kids, 3, 4-year-old, they're eating ice cream on an ice cream cone and it's a hot day and the ice cream falls off the ice cream cone and your little one starts to cry and you're at home, you're like, oh, I know you're really upset. And you pick them up, you love them. You're like, hey, you know what? Not only do I know you're upset and I know this is really bothering you, but I can fix that. I can give you a new ice cream cone and everything's great. So you have to
Mm,
take that and now just kind of reshape it. When your teenager comes home and says, I didn't sit at the lunch table, or, whatever it is, so and so broke up with me, so and so said something mean to me. It's giving them that hug, giving them that love, and going, hey, let's sit down and talk about how you're feeling.
mhm,
You can't necessarily fix the ice cream cone like you can when they're little and that's the crisis, but you can listen. But if it's just reshaping how you're doing it as a parent. And I think as parents of teens, they didn't come with a manual. We finally mastered them when they were little and they were,
mhm,
young little kids. And now they're becoming a teen and they have all these emotions going on and all this different stuff coming at them. As a parents, we struggle with how do we help them? And it's really about taking that time to communicate and to listen. And, that's why I really work with communication skills with parents, because it's not that they're doing anything wrong. They just need to have those tools. How do you change it? How do you focus not on, not on what they did, not on behavior, but what's behind the behavior, what's causing that behavior? How do you focus on that? And it's just asking those questions and not giving them an answer.
yeah, that's really so true. It's about what's behind that. I think as just adults, that's a really important thing for us to do in our own relationships also, right? And the communication is to stop and listen for, it's almost like reading between the lines a little bit, and also seeing how someone's feeling. But um I love that you said that with communication. I mean, it's something that we should never stop doing, because we can always get better at it, right? With communication.
Yeah, it's an ongoing process, right? Just when you think you're like, hey, I'm kind of good at it, you're like, ooh, I need to do better. And I do that all the time when I have an interaction with my kids. I mean, I'll totally own it. I totally lost it with my kids when they were teenagers,
Mhm.
and I'd sit down afterwards and my husband would come home and he'd be like, what? And I'd be like, you'll never guess what I said. And it's not funny, but you're like, let me share. And then you share what the funny,
Yeah.
the thing that you said that was totally not appropriate, and
Mm,
you're like, wow, I gotta go in there and eat those words. And so I would go in there and I think my kids laugh at me because one time I was really mad at both of them and I told them, I said, this is not a dialogue, it is a monologue. And I
mm.
just gave them their list of stuff to do because I was so mad. And now it is a big joke in our family. They go,
Mhm.
oh, is this a monologue or a dialogue? Because I was always big into dialogues, but I was so mad that day. And I had to go apologize and go, that was not the right thing to say. But now we can laugh about it later. At the time, it was very hurtful.
Yeah.
So it's just remembering to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think it's important for kids to also see that, hey, the parents aren't perfect. We make mistakes, and I think it's good to also show, vulnerability. Like, hey, I could have done better there. I think that actually goes a long ways with kids also, because if you're just always like, this is the way it is, and as in like you're the all-knowing being and have all the answers, I mean, that's just not the case. And I think that kids like to see that, hey, mom and dad aren't perfect either. So.
They they absolutely, they like to see everyone has struggles. No one is perfect. Exactly.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, do you have a favorite saying? Do you have a mantra that you really like that you think is not only maybe powerful for yourself but powerful for others?
I always like to, yeah, I guess one of my favorite things is I always think about, whenever I'm in a communication, whoever I'm communicating with, I always try to think, what's my end goal? And,
Mm,
you know, I'm having a communication with you, Ryan. What's my end goal? My end goal is to make sure at the end we have a relationship
mhm,
that, whatever that relationship looks like. When I communicate with a parent, when I communicate with anyone, so I always think of what's my goal. And I know some people don't think about that, but whether you're in the business place, and my ultimate goal with anyone is to always have a relationship. So if I'm angry and I want a refund, or, so my steak didn't turn out well at a restaurant, instead of getting mad or angry at that waitress or anything, in the end, I want to have a relationship with that person, whatever that, instantaneous short relationship is. So I always try to think about what's my end goal. So I think that's one of my big things that I think about. And I always think about, knowledge is a powerful tool. I always, knowledge, and not just academic education, but academic education and knowledge. So immerse yourself in life, immerse yourself in the knowledge of everything going on in the world, because you can't appreciate someone else or someone else's point of view if you're not trying to learn about it. So it's always being open-minded. So knowledge is key.
I love that. Wow, that is awesome. Having an end goal in mind, um, I think that's really, really important, because it's easy to, let's just say, get short-sighted or lose track of that. And if you have a disagreement with somebody, if you will, it's like, you know what, I know that my end goal here, or what's most important to me, is much bigger than what's happening in this moment. So to be able to keep that in mind, that is really important, and I think it's something that we can use in many realms of our life, whether it's business, whether it's personal. I think it can be used across the board. So thank you for sharing that. That's super powerful. Um, I'm wondering if, and then, also what you said about being open-minded. I mean, I think that if we only knowledge is power. And so I think if you only know what you know, well, there's a lot you don't know, right? There's a lot more that we don't know than what we actually know, and we learn by being open-minded. So I think being open-minded, um, whether it's learning something, whether it's seeing somebody else's point of view, is huge, right? It's absolutely huge, and it's huge in our connection, in our communication, whether it's our spouse, whether it's our kids, but being able to be sympathetic, right, and empathetic and compassionate to another person. I think that being open-minded is a must.
Absolutely. You have to be open-minded, and you have to be able to have your own perspective and perceptions challenged. And I love it when someone shares something with me and I can go, I didn't know that. That's
Mm.
fascinating. Tell me more, because I'm like, wow, I had this perception that was over here, and in this, one area, and I'm very specific, and I'm, might be passionate about it. And then someone goes, well, hey, did you know this? And I'm like, wow, no, I didn't. Like, please share with me. Like,
Mm.
now I'm like, whoa, I've been thinking, this one way all this time, and this person's sharing. Whoa, now I might be a little embarrassed, right? And which is not
Right.
a bad thing, right? It's a good thing, because it's telling you that you're growing and you're changing in your perspective, and that
Mm.
knowledge is coming in, and you can create a new opinion. And then when I go to talk to someone else, and we're talking about something, I might be able to share, hey, so I just learned this. You're not
Mm.
going to believe, and I did some research, and I'm just fascinated by how, I thought one way, and really now I'm shifting to think this way. I think it's important, because you can either be the person that sits on the front porch and go, back in my day, and that's
Mm,
the only way it is, right? Back in my
mm,
day, we drove a horse and buggy and we're all fine, versus, hey, now there's, electric vehicles that drive themselves. This is amazing. And I can hardly wait to get in one. So you can
mhm,
either be the person that sits back and just never wants to change and grow, or you can be
mhm.
the person that's constantly growing and engaging. And I like to think that we should all try to be growing and engaging.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite reasons for traveling and traveling internationally is just seeing how different people live and seeing different perspectives and even like seeing, what our country looks like from the outside. And so I absolutely 100% agree with you. Um, if you, Desiree, could travel back in time and give some a nugget of wisdom to your younger self, your teenage self, what would you tell? What would you tell your younger self?
So I would tell my younger self to be kinder. I think it was, my parents definitely, instilled being kind and being respectful, but I think I could have been even kinder. And I don't mean that like, oh, I was this mean bully or anything, but I look at, my girls and, they were the new person. And, sometimes new people came to my school and we were in the military. So we moved around a little bit. And for a stint, we were in the same place for 4 years, just with my dad's job, and new people would come, and I never went and, kind of engaged them and was nice to them and asked them to sit at our table, for
Mm,
at lunch. And I think, shame on me. And I didn't do anything mean to them, but I'm like, I could have been kinder. So I think
mm,
I want to tell my teenage self to remember to be kind to other people. I think that would be a big thing. And just to sometimes, be patient and listen to other people when they were talking. I think teenagers sometimes they get very focused, and it's really hard for them to see someone else's perspective or perception, or they just kind of want to be that bull in the china shop and not be a bully, but they just kind of see it one way when they're doing stuff. To stop and be open to other ways of doing something. So I think those were the big things when I was growing up. I wish I had been taken that moment to be kinder.
mm. Yeah, I love that. I think that, and I think you hit it in the head. It wasn't necessarily maybe that you weren't kind, but you perhaps didn't necessarily see it from other people's points of view. Like, hey, it would be really nice if someone acknowledged me and acknowledged me and introduced me or made me a friend or and just to even be a little bit more, yeah, be kind, be more thoughtful of others. And I think that's really good advice because once you start those kind of patterns when you're young, they will continue as you get older, right? I mean,
Exactly.
um, uh, I think it's an interesting thing to think about. Is as a teen, I can remember to being like, "Oh, it's fine. I'll get to it when I'm older, or it's something I'll work on later." It's like, no, you're actually however you are when you're young. I mean, it's just like you're just gonna age, right? Unless you actually really work on things.
Absolutely. And yeah, I just think you're right. Being thoughtful, being, kind. I just think, wow, I wish I would have just taken that, the new kid, or, sometimes when you had, we all did it, you had the substitute teacher, you're kind of snarky or
Hmm.
disrespectful a little bit. I really wish I wouldn't have been, because I think, wow, they were coming to do a job. They weren't coming to have teenagers be sarcastic or anything.
Hmm.
And we all did it, or maybe I just did it. I totally own that
Hmm.
it might have just been me.
Yeah.
But so it's thinking about the other person. It's really trying to put yourself in that other person's shoes and really being empathetic to what they're feeling or what they're going through. And so I try to do that now. And my husband will tell you that I can be sitting in the shopping mall when we used to go with our kids, and I could like meet the old man sitting beside me. And before long, I could know his whole life story and his wife's life story. And he goes, I think we're going for dinner at their house next week. He goes,
That's
what,
awesome.
how? I said, I don't know, it's really important to me to be kind. He's sitting there, and I think, they just want a friend, they just want someone to talk to. So I think about that,
Mm,
when I'm in the grocery line, if I'm not in a big hurry and someone starts talking to me or something, I really stop to try to be kind, to listen to them, because I might be their only contact, that they've gone to the grocery store to look for someone to talk to, or they've gone to Target to, look for something to, and their biggest thing is having someone just acknowledge them for the day. So I think about, how do I be kind? How do I stop and go, yeah, I got 2 minutes of my life that I can listen to you, because what is more important in these 2 minutes than spending time with a perfect stranger who wants to tell me that she's buying a swimsuit for her granddaughter, that her
Mm,
grandbaby who's just born. There is nothing more important in my life than that 2 minutes.
I so agree. I so agree. And it's something as a world we could do a lot more of.
Yes.
Absolutely. And actually, Desiree, um, I wrote a book. It's called Wisdom Beyond the Classroom. And the last chapter in it is actually called Be Kind.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So I totally agree. Where can we find you? And we want to reach out to you. I know I had mentioned, your website, Encouraging Teens, but where can we find you? How can we follow you? How can we get in touch with you? All that good stuff.
So my website's a great place to start encouraging teens. And actually, if you go on the link for your parents that are listening, there's a 3 tips to communicating better with your teen, which is a
Mm,
free download. So if you're trying to
love that.
figure out where to start as a parent, go there, download it. It is some great information. I'm not rocking your world. I'm reminding you of stuff you already know. And I
Mhm.
think that's really important when someone reminds you of it. You're like, oh yeah, I got that. I can do that. So that I am on Facebook as Encouraging Teens. I am on Instagram as at Encouraging Teens. And this fall, after a number of parents have asked me, I've started an Encouraging Teens parent group. So if you're a
Mm,
parent and you real of a teenager and you really want to be in there, jump in, sign up to join my Encouraging Teens parent group. I think it's a little tough to find on Facebook and I'm figuring out how to do that. But I think if you search Encouraging Teens parent group, it comes right up. They're telling me. Um, so I'm having my people look at how to make that easier, but I'm going to do some lives. I'm going to have some people come on there. And I really want it to be a community of support, community where a parent can go, I lost it today. Holy smokes. Has anyone else felt that? And
mm,
everyone's felt that. And sometimes you just need, another group of teenage parents to go, oh, I was there on Tuesday.
mm,
I'm feeling you. I'm feeling it, but you've got this. It's hard to say sorry, but you got it.
mhm.
We all just want someone to encourage us. We all just want to belong. We all want to be loved. And sometimes you need to find that love and support in, other communities, and a parenting group for teens is a great one to do it. So that and just, going on my website and getting that free download on communication tips would be great.
Oh, I love that. I love what you're doing. Thank you for what you're doing. It's powerful. I can't think of anything that's better to be doing in the world than encouraging teens and their parents and helping them both along the way. So, Desiree Panlilio, it has been an honor and a privilege to have you on. And I personally look forward to just watching your journey with encouraging teens and just watch how that unfolds. So, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved this.